Now, the Chancellor Sajid Javid has said that he wants to simplify the tax system when he sets out his first budget this autumn. In an interview with The Times, Mr Javid said that he was considering a number of reforms, including possible changes to stamp duty, making it payable on property sales rather than purchases. Well, joining me now to discuss any possible changes to stamp duty is property expert Henry Pryor. Thanks for coming in, Henry.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's a possible reform, good or bad?
I think that it's August, it's what in the media is termed the silly season. It may be, when I woke up this morning and saw these headlines, that somebody is perhaps trying to distract us from other more pressing issues, such as those you've been talking to Tony earlier about. This would be revolutionary. There are lots of calls, there have been lots of calls for the stamp duty system to be changed. Indeed, George Osborne made some significant changes both in 2014 and then in 2016. It's got cheaper for about 90%, 95% of all buyers. But these proposals would be, as I say, revolutionary, and they will, I'm afraid, in the way that they've been framed today, cause considerable consternation in the housing market in general, because people, buyers and sellers and their agents are all going to sit on their hands and wait until there is some clarity.
And also, I mean, in terms of simplifying it, wouldn't the stamp duty just be added on by the sellers to make up, a bit like VAT?
For many people, it will be a zero-sum game. So sellers will say the buyer is no longer having to foot that stamp duty bill, therefore now that I've got to, I'm just going to put it onto the price. Some buyers who get a mortgage, roughly 65% of people who buy a home get a mortgage, will simply be able to put it on their mortgage. They'll borrow money to pay their tax, which a lot of people are deeply uncomfortable about. But the bottom line is it going to affect revenue? Stamp duty has already started to dwindle because the market has got slightly tougher, particularly at the top end of the housing market. But is this going to make a difference for people trying to scramble onto those lower rungs of the housing ladder? First-time buyers, as you may know, don't pay stamp duty up to £300,000. And what about the people that the government has been very desperately trying to encourage, older people trying to downsize to free up those family homes so that other people can move up the housing ladder? Are they going to be able to afford this extra cost, and will they be prepared to take that on the chin?
Yeah, it's a bigger tax bill for people coming out, aren't they?
Indeed.
Like you say, downsizing. What sort of shape is the housing market in, generally, the property market?
It's not sick, but it's not the frothy market of 2 or 3 years ago. We will get numbers from Rightmove, the big web portal, on Monday, looking at asking prices. We got the numbers from the ONS last week telling us about sales across the United Kingdom. Sales are holding up along their long-term average. What's changed is that for most people now, they're unable probably to get the prices that they might have expected to get 2 or 3 years ago. But as I say, there is still a market. If you want to buy and you want to sell, you still can do so. Although I'm afraid what the Chancellor has mentioned or hinted at today is very much going to put a lid on the market for the foreseeable future.
OK, like I said, it's a possibility that he mentioned in an interview. Now, a recent survey by Santander, commissioned by Santander, said 70% of young people said there's no chance we're even going to get a foot on the housing ladder. What is the solution here to get the housing market kick-started, besides Brexit uncertainty being sorted out? I've heard you talk about capital gains tax and the extension of the exemption for first-time buyers.
There are lots of things that government could do, and there are quite a few things that government are being encouraged to do, but there's nothing that they must do. And one of the things that the housing market reacts really badly to is uncertainty. And so this news today, as I said before, will cause some consternation. I am often asked, what can young people do in order to get onto the housing ladder, to give them a chance of buying their first home? My advice, I'm afraid, is rather cynical. Be lucky and choose your parents well. Without the benefit of the proverbial bank of mum and dad, without your parents owning a property, it becomes statistically very, very much harder for young people to be able to do that. The government has talked about making some changes. They are trying to increase house building, and some changes I'm sure will come down the line if this autumn, wrapped up in the budget when the Chancellor does eventually make it. But I don't think stamp duty is going to be that single solution, and I'm afraid we've got a lot more work to do to provide the homes that people want to rent and to buy.
OK. Henry Pryor, thank you very much for that insight. Thank you.